The 113th Congress is just past its halfway point. What will it get done in the final stretch? Well, so far, in almost every way you measure it, they're at a run rate that will leave them as the least productive Congress in history. But given the quick bipartisan budget agreement, perhaps a new year could bring a new attitude. Here to talk about a few items on that to-do list, we've got New York Democratic Congressman Gerald Nadler. Congressman, thanks for being here. Let's talk about immigration first. This was supposed to be the year, 2013, at least after the election, many thought. But then you've got these two groups that watched what President Obama did on immigration before the election. They gave him overwhelming support. Latino Americans, 71 to 27. Asian Americans, as much as 77%, according to ALDEF. Yet, a comprehensive bipartisan bill through the Senate, 68 to 32. It's stuck in the House, as you know, right now. What can supporters do to get this done in 2014?
Well, there has to be tremendous pressure on the Republicans who control the House, who have refused. The Speaker says he will not permit any comprehensive bill to come to the floor. In fact, we in the Judiciary Committee have passed 5 very limited, in fact, quite obnoxious bills on limited aspects of reform. And some of the conservatives in the House say they don't want even those bills. Nothing should come to the floor.
Why are they obnoxious?
Well, they're obnoxious because they would throw billions of dollars at enforcement that would be ineffective because we're already doing very strong enforcement. They would cut down on diversity visas in order to bring more high-tech people to the country. We want the more high-tech people. They shouldn't be at the cost of diversity visas. But the fact, and they don't deal with some of the keys, like a pathway to citizenship. They don't deal with the dream, that kids were brought here at 6 months old, think they're Americans, don't even know they weren't born here. When they get to 18, they suddenly find they can't go to college. They have no career path. These are some of the severe problems we have to address. Now, some of the Republicans are saying they don't want even these very narrow right-wing bills to pass the House because they're afraid they don't want to have anything pass the House unless they go to conference with the Senate's more comprehensive bill. But we'll see. I
mean, what would you be fine with?
I would be fine with some sort of a comprehensive bill that deals with all the different questions.
Would you take some piecemeal, knowing that you'll get it done little by little, as the president's indicated you might have support for?
Depending what piecemeal. I mean, the problem with the piecemeal approach is that the Republicans, the conservatives on this issue, might say, all right, we'll do the conservative pieces, we won't do the liberal pieces. And so you get...
So you'd be open to it so long as it fits into a end goal of reaching what might be a comprehensive plan.
Absolutely.
All right.
But let me say, the hope is that Speaker Boehner has hired a staff person recently who's worked on comprehensive
Ex-Senator McCain staffer.
So maybe he's willing to change the path that the Republicans have been taking in the House so far, because that path will lead nowhere.
So you think he might be, if you will, switching colors on this? He might be going for a little bit more comprehensive piece of immigration reform.
He might be, and that's the hope.
Okay, so when you look at immigration reform and the idea of it, there's many activities that have been happening from groups that are supportive of immigration reform. There was just a fast, for instance, and it still may be going on for some of those groups that are out there. But was the timing right in 2013? Are they coming together and working at the right pace?
Well, they're working at the right pace. They're doing everything that's possible to be done. The question is, you know, this used to be considered somewhat bipartisan, but you've got these ultras in the Republican ranks these days, the Tea Partiers, who don't want to see anything except more...
but I'm talking about those that got together and were putting together a fast for a good number of weeks, as you know. Was it too early? Should I have done it in 2014?
No, I think it's not too early. I think it's not too early. You have to keep mounting the pressure.
Okay, I want to switch topics while we've got you here. I want to move on to gun control and the future of possible legislation. Outgoing New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and activist Shannon Watts have an op-ed today in Politico. It announces they will merge their two organizations, Mayors Against Illegal Guns and Moms Demand Action. They call the uphill battle here for gun control, quote, a fight that can be won, and unless we are willing to accept that 33 Americans will be murdered with guns every day, it's a fight we must win, end quote. That's what they say. What does the new year look for you when it comes to gun legislation?
I don't know. Again, we can pass decent gun legislation probably in the Senate. The House, it's up to the Republicans, and they have been slaves to the NRA. Some Democrats, too. I don't want to make this partisan. But the bulk of the Republicans have been absolute slaves to the NRA, and they're not reasonable. Now, there is very reasonable and modest legislation that you can pass, that we should pass, namely to get rid of the gun show exception background checks. We should not be selling guns to insane people, to criminals, etc. And we have that law with respect to gun shops, but not with respect to gun shows. So just to expand that to gun shows, so we don't sell guns to lunatics and to criminals, ought to be easy, but it isn't.
So we've got gun legislation. We talked about immigration as well. And as I started the segment here today, Representative Nadler, the question was, with that relatively quick bipartisan budget deal, how much did that increase your hopefulness for what might happen in this final second half of the 113th?
I am pessimistic. It didn't increase my...
It went down?
No, it didn't go down, but it didn't go up very much. That was a very minor deal. It was the Republicans had been severely wounded politically by the shutdown. They didn't want to do that again, so we got a very minor deal, which doesn't really deal with our budget problems, doesn't really deal with the economic problems at all, but puts off a couple of decisions for a few months, really. That's what it does. And we have the debt ceiling raise coming up. And all you do when you raise the debt ceiling is agree to pay the bills that you've already voted to incur, which the Republicans just voted to incur through that deal that was made.
And election season starts too.
Yeah, but if they're saying that they're not going to raise the debt ceiling, as they are saying again, unless there are concessions, they're inviting another crisis.
All right, Democratic Congressman from New York, thank you so much, Gerald Nadler. I appreciate your time today.
Pleasure.